President Trump is going after the Federal Reserve again this morning. In a series of tweets a short time ago, he said the problem facing the country isn't China, but, quote, a Federal Reserve that is too proud to admit their mistake of acting too fast and tightening too much. All right, let's talk more about this now and this difficult relationship between the Fed and the White House with Allan Lichtman, distinguished professor of history at American University and also a political historian. Thanks so much for being with us. Just first off, your response to the president's tweet this morning.
It's absolutely consistent with what we know about this president. This president only recognizes successes. You know, he's directed us to the greatest economy in our history. He's done more than any other president. He's the smartest person in the world. He has the best memory in the world. He's the least racist person in the world. But any failure, anything that goes wrong, he blames on others. So his attack on the Feds exactly fits into this Donald Trump MO.
But
he wants the economy to take off, or at least to sustain itself, particularly as he faces re-election in 2020. And if there is a problem with the economy, he wants to blame it on someone else. So he's setting up the Fed, who really can't defend itself, of course, because they don't want to get involved in politics. He's setting up the Fed as this pawn.
But to be fair, Professor, Trump's comments have been a bit of a shock to the financial world, but he's not the first president to go after a Fed chairman, right?
Oh, of course not. Although probably more directly and more frequently than any other president. Of course, we had the relationship between Arthur Burns and Richard Nixon in the run-up to the 1972 election, when Richard Nixon, of course, was putting a lot of pressure on the Fed chairman, also to ease credit to try to create the best possible economy for Nixon's 1972 re-election. And it worked. And how did Nixon damp down the inflation that inevitably occurred? By adopting what today we would call a socialist measure of wage and price controls. Nixon was only worried that that would blow up after his election in 1972. But I'm not sure Richard Nixon is the model that you really want here.
And certainly no other president has been able to directly speak to the public in the way that Trump has with his Twitter feed. But explain to us why the Fed is such an easy target for the president.
Yeah, the Fed was first created in 1913 under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, in part a reaction to the great financial crisis of 1907 and earlier financial crises, to give some stability and some central direction to financial and monetary policy in the United States. And it's been strengthened several times since then, even recently during the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And the Fed is supposed to be independent of the presidency and independent of politics. It doesn't get its money directly from the Congress. The Fed chairman supposedly has a fixed term, a bit like the FBI director, but probably could be fired by the president. So it's a great target for the president because it really can't bark back without undermining its independence from politics.